Before we even get into this episode, I am going through an existential crisis that I go through maybe 2 to 3 times a month. I don't know. Every time I open up social media, and I kid you not, every single time, someone's engaged. Someone my age is engaged. Mind you, I just turned 22. Happy birthday to me. I am on the verge, guys. I'm on the verge. Because what the actual frick? Like, I am just now learning how to invest in stocks. What the mess do you mean people are getting engaged? What do you mean people are getting engaged? People are living, girlfriends of mine are preparing to live with a man for the rest of their lives. I can't even comprehend that for myself. And that's how I know I'm not ready for marriage. I'm fully aware. I just always go through the thoughts of what the frick is everyone's life. Like, everyone's life at 22 and 23 and kind of in my age range is so different. And I cannot conceptualize the fact that people my age are getting married. I can't even spell marriage. I'm joking. Yes, I can. Just in case my husband's watching. I'm very astute. I'm graduating in May. And if you're taking an interest into this, if you hear calling of like, oh, wait, she might be my, what is it, WIFE? Just know that I can spell. And that was a joke. Anyways, hey, I'm Gabby, and welcome to SheSpeaks Podcast. Roll the intro. There's no waste at the altar. Guys, I went to Elevation Rhythms concert like 2 weeks ago, and I've been listening to nothing but Elevation since then. I literally every time I go to concerts, I end up liking their music so much more. I knew their main stuff, but Joel Barnes was there too, and I'm like hooked on his stuff too, which I knew his like big stuff, but I've never like sat down and listened to his discography. Oh, they're all so talented, and I love their music so freaking much, and I'm just like still on an all-time high. Mind you, the concert was like 2 weeks ago, kid you not. And then the Super Bowl was yesterday, and Bad Bunny performed, and just the historical significance of that, I'm like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed music-wise. But any hoosers, I hope you guys are doing so absolutely well. Okay, I hope you guys are doing splendid. I know it's been crazy in this world lately, in America at least. But I'm not going to make it any better because we are still talking about suffering today. I know. I freaking know. But it is the last time, and not the last time ever. It's the last part of this little series we're doing in the beginning of this year on suffering, because again, I told you guys I'd planned out a bunch of episodes, and this is the last suffering one that's solely focused on suffering. I know it's like a low topic, but it is something that is so important. I mean, it's something that we literally go through all the time, and someone's always suffering with something. So I just feel like I have to expound on it as much as I can, at least with the knowledge that God has given me and that I know, and the stuff that I picked up from the Bible. So we're just here to educate. We're just here to spread the good news. We're here to try to help as much as I can personally, and try to catapult you into just diving into your word and knowing it for yourself, and debunking what the word is about, what God is saying, and how we should translate biblically aligned knowledge into our lives. So with all of that being said, yes, we're talking about suffering today, but this is the last time. This is the last time, I promise. For now, that we will be talking about suffering. We're moving on into relationships next week. And actually, I'm not even going to promise that, because I'm struggling so much with relationships as of late that I don't know if I want to talk about that with y'all. I don't know. Okay. All right, baby. So the first week of this year, we talked about having courage in Christ and where he calls you and places you in life. And then the second week, we talked about how to act when Christ places you into some spiritual opposition. And then last week I talked about just kind of what was happening in the world, which is about suffering, but not necessarily something that was in my notes. I just felt like it was needed at the time because of everything that was happening and everything that is happening in the world. But today we're going to be just ending off suffering, and honestly just focusing on specific mindset shifts we have to enact in ourselves as Christians in order to move through things like affliction and not just get stuck in it. So personal mindset things that we can learn, apply so that we don't get stuck in our ways of affliction and in suffering and opposition and things like that. So this is very mental focused, and I just have a few thoughts on it to share with you guys. So let's get into it. We are starting off in 2 Corinthians 4:17 through 18. No, I will not be putting it on the screen because you need to go open that Bible yourself once again, okay? But it reads, "Therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away. Boy, do I know it. Yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our momentary affliction is producing for us an absolutely incomparable eternal weight of glory." That sentence alone is just it's so juicy. But it continues to say, so we do not focus on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Just breaking that down real quick. That is such a meaty piece of scripture. I mean, there's so much hope and faith in that alone, genuinely. It is so meaty. First of all, that first sentence, therefore we do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. I can be the first to admit that outwardly, I think I am in a season of wasting away, outwardly at least. I can't tell y'all the last time I put on a full face of makeup because I've been wasting away. No, I'm like, actually, that's very true. I can't tell you the last time I put on a full face of makeup because life has just been lifing. Even this past last week that I've experienced, it was my birthday week. My brother was in town, and then I was also facing a lot of stuff, a lot of not so great news that I was receiving work wise and social media wise, and then receiving stuff from our president and just everything that's happening. I feel like outwardly I've been very sluggish. You can tell I've not been caring about how I've been dressing lately. Like it's very simple. Have not been, motivated to put on a full face, not curling the hair like it's been this claw clip for a week. Just because outwardly it seems as though I am wasting away because those are things I'm not really focused on because of everything that's happening and how it's affecting me internally. But I think that it is important to note in the scripture how he talks about, even though outwardly it may look like you're wasting away, God is still renewing us day by day. And you can tell by me just even having the strength to still get up and still laugh and still find joy in my day. And no, I may not be wearing a good outfit, but I'm in class and I'm learning and I'm blessed and I'm waking up and I get to go work out and I get to go do these things that maybe I'm not doing them in the way that I used to, that shows that I have like outward and inward joy, but I'm still renewed day by day to even focus on these things and to even enjoy the company of my roommates and my friends and clean my room and read my word and worship and go to church and all these things. That's proof in itself that we are being renewed day by day, despite maybe not looking like it, because the world can chip away at us, and that could show physically. But that's okay. We don't focus on outward appearance, we focus on the inward appearance. And so, especially to my girlies, it is okay if you're going through a season of, the face is not beat, the hair is not the teast it could be, and the outfit is not, the most Pinterest worthy stuff that I'm used to. But the very fact that God's renewing us internally day by day gives us hope that one day we'll get back to that point again. But just being grateful about the grace that he's showing us inwardly, that every day we wake up, he's renewed us, that every day we wake up, we still have energy in our bones. We still have health in our lungs. We still are flourishing in our jobs or flourishing at school and doing what we need to get done. And, still finding joy in the little things and stuff like that. Like it is okay for that to be enough. I especially am so hard on myself when it comes to like not doing everything in my mind I think I need to do. Literally, if I allowed myself to make my to-do list every day, it'd be impossible. And I've lived it. Like it's impossible to get everything done because I feel like I have to be everything everywhere all at once. And that's not the case. And that's why I've been like inviting God into my like morning time to let him guide me in what I need to do for the day. And I was just talking to a friend about this, allowing God to be the author and finisher of our to-do lists is something that needs to be preached more. You need to invite him in every aspect of your life. And somewhere where I falter and I stress myself out and I fall into overthinking and anxiety would be my to-do list, because I feel like I have so many things to do and I want to be successful on all fronts. And therefore I have to dedicate my day to all of these things. And then I end up coming up short, obviously, because I'm human and there's not enough hours in the day for everything that I write down. And then I'm disappointed in myself and I'm mad at myself. And I probably didn't even get the most important things done, like spending time with God. So inviting God into every aspect of your life and allowing him to be the author of your to-do list is something that I find to be very important and essential in my walk, and something that I feel like a lot of women especially need to like tap into, because us young women, young women of color, especially like us young ambitious women can tend to be the ones to burn our own selves out. And so I think inviting him into that is really, really essential and really important. Now, the next line says, "For our momentary affliction is producing for us an absolutely incomparable eternal weight of glory." That sentence, Lord, okay? First, I love that he classifies our affliction as momentary. I think it's very important to know that the affliction that we are experiencing it's just for a moment. It is simply just for a moment. We are not, it may feel like it's the end of the world. It always does. Like, it genuinely always does. It feels like you're drowning. It feels like there's no way out. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, because we're human. And the things we are facing are meant to stop us most of the time. It's meant to break us. It's meant to knock us down a peg. It's meant to humble us. So yes, it's going to feel like the end of the world, but God says in his word, which his word is true at all points in time, no matter when it was written, his word is true and it's living and it's alive, which means that it is relevant to your life today. He says, for our momentary affliction is producing for us an absolutely incomparable eternal weight of glory. The things that we're going through that are but for a moment is literally producing eternal glory in our life. Like, the momentary problem is producing a forever peace. The momentary problem is producing a forever joy. The momentary problem is producing a forever life with God. And so I think it is very important to note that while your problem may seem big, just know that it's but for a moment, but it's also so essential to your forever, that this momentary thing is essential for the permanent life that you're going to live outside of this earthly life that we're living. And so it is very important to be able to classify and know what is momentary and what is permanent, and that these momentary things are not just things that we have to get through, but it's things that are essential to the permanent. And so we have to, first of all, rejoice in the fact that we are able to even go through temporary things that lead to something so substantial like an eternal weight of glory. I mean, that is so amazing. And while it might not feel amazing because you're going through, that should be your light at the end of the tunnel. That should be your motivation. That should be the reason why you keep going and keep pushing, because this is but for a moment, and that it is producing such a beautiful and worthwhile permanency in heaven, of joy, of worship, of glory, of a life that we can't even fathom we will live one day, but is so worth it to live it one day. Like, I can't wait to feel and see what that's going to be like. But you have to go through the momentary affliction. It's very much needed. It is very much needed in order for you to get there. And he goes on to say, "So we do not focus on what is seen, but what is unseen." Now, this is one of my favorite scriptures. I've been quoting this maybe this whole entire year in every episode. I might make a compilation at the end of the year how many times I've actually quoted the scripture on this podcast alone. But this is where it comes from. He says, "So we do not focus on what is seen, but what is unseen." Why do we do that? Because what is seen is the affliction, and there's no hope and there's no future in our eyes. But what is unseen is the fact that it's producing an eternal weight of glory, like we just talked about. And he continues to say, "For what is seen is temporary." Like, he literally clarifies for you. Like, that was me trying to explain it to y'all, but he literally clarifies it right after, saying, "For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." That scripture alone is just so filled with hope, it's just filled with so much glory in it, that what we go through is not for nothing. It's not for nothing. I think the world tries to deem it as something that's for like not important, and it's like, you know what, forget it. it's not that serious, like it's not worth it, drop everybody, drop this person, don't forgive this person, protect your peace. But all that is doing is shutting down the work that those afflictions are actually doing and producing in your life. It is for a reason. Nothing you go through is on coincidence. Nothing you go through is not important. Nothing you go through is insignificant. It is all for a reason. It is all for a purpose. But it is important that if we want to make it through it in a spiritual lens, then we have to look at the situation from a spiritual lens, look at the unseen and not what it looks like physically. And that's just the key verse I wanted to operate out of today. But going into more meaty stuff, the first point I wanted to make today was that the true source of our blessing, what that is and what that means. In verse 7 of 2 Corinthians, it says, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all surpassing power is from God and not us." Now, I want to clarify what this podcast is, because I get a lot of DMs. I'm like, "Oh, I love your preaching," or "Oh, I love your words." Guys, I want to clarify. I want to clarify. Strictly, this is all educational purposes. I think that I didn't know where I was classified for a minute there. But truly, I find so much joy in learning what the Bible's actually saying and what it's for and how to apply it. And so that's why I made this podcast, to do the exact, help y'all with the exact same thing. So when I break down scriptures or when I break down meanings, it can be quite a lot, I think, but it's just simply, I'm trying to make sure everyone understands what I've learned and what I'm comprehending, and kind of helping you dive deeper into um, your word, and breaking down words and breaking down context and breaking down what specific things mean in the word, so you can actually know it and you can get it deep down in your soul and you can understand it. And if you understand one part of the Bible or one passage, it can help you understand other passages, and it becomes less daunting and overwhelming to read it, and you become more normalized and familiar with the word and how it works. So with all of that being said, we're going to break down this scripture, and it's quite meaty. It's quite meaty, but I hope it helps. So verse 7 again says, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all surpassing power is from God and not us." Now, I was confused because I didn't know what treasure being in jars of clay actually meant. What does that indicate? Like, what are we talking about? And so I looked it up and did some studying. And it's actually Paul. He was specifically using this description of jars of clay to illustrate specifically the sharp contrast between who he was and then who he was with the calling of the Lord on his life. Okay. So he was highlighting that he was ordinary and unimpressive, but when he was called to preach the gospel of light and power, he was the very opposite. He was light and power, because of that. So that's what he means when he talks about having treasure in jars of clay, to show the all surpassing power of God. But what most people don't want to hear is that God is very purposeful with how much you suffer. Um, a lot of people don't want to suffer in general, but you suffer with and without God. So I'd rather do it with Him personally. But most people don't want to hear that God is purposeful on how much you suffer, but He is. He is very intentional on how much you suffer. Not in the sense that He's like evil Knievel with a black cat that He's petting and He's like ready to ruin your life and see if you can pass this test, but He's intentional in it. God's severity is intentional so that the true source of the blessing will always be recognized as divine and not human. Why is this important? I mentioned that in the last episode that we have souls attached to our acceptance to our call. And this warns that we have people that are either witnessing our suffering or are going to be on the other end of the testimony that we will have and the testimony that we will tell. And God doesn't do blurry lines. He doesn't do, oh, it could have been human, it could have been divine. No, He does things in a way that you can only know and only tell that it was God. There's a song that I love that says, I think it's called Could Have Only Been God, but it goes, He made the impossible possible, only one way to explain it could have only been God. And that's how God works. So the severity is super intentional because you have to know that the only way that you got out of that and the only way that you made it through and the only way that you're still sane and cognitive and alive and here to tell the story is because of God. And so that's why he is very intentional with it, not just for you to understand, but for also the witnesses attached to your life and the souls attached to your life to understand. And that's why we are nothing without him, but we are everything with him. And that's why we have to constantly feed ourselves and walk in the spirit, constantly make time and quiet time, invest in your quiet time with him daily before you do anything else, because it's walking in him that you will meet what Paul says, that you will have light and power everywhere that you go, everyone that you talk to, every encounter that you have, it will be with light and power from God and not a mundane human perspective and ordeal, because that's not going to produce anything but more humanness, and humans are very much imperfect. And so that's why we need him. A scripture to help with that is 1 Corinthians 14:33. It says, God is not the author of confusion. He does not do confusion. Therefore, he likes to make things very clear. And in order to make things very clear, you have to know that it was him and the divine power and not you or human instinct or coincidence. That's why the severity of your situations are so intentionally produced by him. And some of y'all might be like, well, I'm not one of those people. I'm not someone who is just gonna bypass God and not know that it's God. I know everything is God. But if we're being super, super real, if we're being very vulnerable and honest, there are a lot of things in our life to this day that we still don't equate to God's glory and God's grace. There are a lot of things, because how often do you wake up and you thank God for the breath in your lungs, or you thank God for the roof over your head, or you thank God for the fast Wi-Fi that you have, or the technology that you have access to, or the school that you go to, or the friends that you have, or the shoes that you have that don't have holes in them, and the clothes and the influx of clothes that you have, you know, the funds that you have in your wallet, even though it's not much, you still have something. Like, we all as humans naturally disregard the natural blessings that God has already produced for us and that he produces for us on the daily. I mean, our protection of going from A to B and B to C and C to D at all hours of the day, and still making it back home, still being safe, still being alive, like that all goes taken for granted naturally because we're humans, and he understands that. So he extends that grace and that forgiveness for us. But there's a reason why he produces such situations that you have to know was just him, and it has to get a little hard, and it has to get a little tiring, and it has to be overwhelming, and it has to be a challenge, because there you have to recognize that it's God at the end of the day. And I'm often reminded about the story of Abraham and Sarah, or Abraham. Well, Abraham and Sarah were together, but Abraham and Isaac specifically. I think the story is just so interesting, because Abraham and Sarah wanted a kid, but they were too late in age. And so God tells them that they're gonna have a kid. And they're like, Sarah even laughed. She's like, there's no way. There's no way that's gonna happen. We're so old. And so she does things her own way, and they do their things their own way, and end up having a illegitimate son or whatever. Technically not even illegitimate, because Hagar is one of his wives, but nevertheless, furthermore, God blesses them with Isaac because he promised them a kid. That was his covenant. So no matter what they did, they still got their son at the end of the day. And then God asks Abraham to sacrifice Isaac after he gives him the blessing. Like, Abraham didn't even want a son and think he would have a son until God told him he would have a son. And then God gave him a son, and they're enjoying their son, Isaac. And then God goes, okay, now go sacrifice him. What are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about? And Abraham is faced with this opposition that started off as a blessing from God. And I can even imagine his confusion that he was experiencing truly during the initial conversation. But Abraham goes and takes his son to the top of a hill and proceeds. And something that I never caught, that a pastor that I follow, Pastor Darius Daniel, said, he mentions that his servants ask Abraham, like, where Siri, nobody's talking to you. When Abraham is asked by his servants, what are you doing? He goes, we're going to go up that hill and we're going to come back down. And that just shows his faith that he had in that moment of knowing and believing that he was coming back down with his son or someone. Like, he didn't know for sure, but I think just the posture and the specific words that he used was just so intentional about the fact that he was faithful, that hopefully he would come back with his son. But it's because of Abraham's faithfulness that we know that God is Jehovah Jireh. Like, we needed that story for us to realize that God is a provider. You know what I mean? So it's stuff like that that we go through the same thing. And no, it may not be as insane as sacrificing a son or sacrificing a kid, but maybe it's sacrificing a friend or sacrificing a relationship or sacrificing social media or sacrificing our time and our sleep and getting up earlier, sacrificing binge time with word time and stuff like that, that will be able to prove to you who God is, sacrificing your anxiety in a situation and allowing faith to take over to see who God truly is. We wouldn't know that God is Jehovah Jireh and that he is a provider if Abraham didn't go through what he went through. If Abraham would have quit at the beginning and be like, no, God, I'm not going to do that. If he would have opted out of his affliction, out of his opposition that was produced through a blessing from God, if he would have opted out of that completely and just wasn't faithful and didn't go through it, but tried to go around it, then we would never have this story to indicate that God is Jehovah Jireh for us to know that he's a provider, because he wears many hats. In this one, in this story and in this true event, it's introduced that he's Jehovah Jireh, but he had to go through that. These are real stories, real things that happened. A real man was blessed with a son in old age, like 85 or something crazy like that. And a real man was told by God to go sacrifice his son, in which he was going to do, but it was his faithfulness that reigned true, that he saw the ram in the bush, and that was the actual sacrifice. And he came back down with his son, and he named that area Jehovah Jireh, as in God is a provider. And now we know as humans that God is a provider, and we could take that with us into our situations and into our life because of the affliction that was presented to Abraham. It all comes together, and it's all very important. I definitely recommend, if you haven't read that story, go check it out. I say all that to say that God knows that due to familiarity and us being humans and the consistency of blessings that he produces in our life, we won't show the true gratitude our lives deserve, because it's always there. So it's definitely important for us to realize when's the last time we thanked him for these things, but to also praise him in the affliction, because it's the affliction that will produce the faith we need to continue to follow him and to continue to live out his word in this world. And just to end this with a personal thing, I know I talk about the Bible a lot, and the Bible can kind of feel a little far descended for a lot of us because it happened so long ago in our minds. Here's a personal testimony. I recently had a situation about last October where I had to write this testimony down because it was such a not traumatizing, but it was such a big affliction that I went through, that I kind of blocked out most of it. I will not lie. But my savings had dwindled down, and I'm a very financially responsible individual. But being in college and doing such a rare job that is social media, and it's more contractual based, so I get paid based off contracts, and therefore it's not as consistent as having like a regular job in the world. Payment is it's interesting. It's interesting. Because while payment is great, it's not consistent. So if anyone works like a contractual based job, that you would know, or if any other social media people here, then you would know what I mean. But anyways, so my savings had dwindled down on me to the point where all I had in my savings was rent for the following month, which was good. I was fine. If I have rent in my account, I'm good. I don't need to spend my money on anything else. As long as my bills are paid, that's all I care about. And at this point in October, my savings had dwindled down all the way to the point that I had only 1 month's worth of rent, and I had it there just in case that if a check didn't come in time to pay my rent, then I had that backup to pay my rent. October was going into November, and it seemed like a check wasn't coming. I was asking my agency, and they were like, oh, it's coming like later November, so you probably won't receive anything till later November. And I was like, okay, cool, at least I have my savings, I'll be fine, whatever. And then Adobe freaking Cloud. Now, I shouldn't have had them attached to my savings. I don't know why that was a thing there. It was something I did a long time ago, but I had a yearly subscription with them for all of their products because of the work that I do. I use a lot of Adobe. And I forgot that I had it. And right before they had charged me, I remembered. And so I canceled through their website or whatever. I was like, we're not renewing subscription. So it didn't take any of my money. Um, and then a day came and it took all of my money still. And it was their fault. It was their system didn't update or something like that. And so they had ended up charging me literally most of my rent. They charged me about $700 or something insane, like insane. Um, and I was like not even distraught yet. I wasn't even distraught yet because I knew that it was their fault. And so I was just going to go to them, have them redo it, and then go to my bank and let my bank know so my bank can, give me my money back, yada, 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 right? So I call the people and I'm like, hey, this is wrong. Y'all need to fix this. Here's when I submitted the thing. I have a screenshot. Y'all need to give me my money back, right? And so they were like, oh, we're sorry about that. We'll give you your money back. It's going to take about like 30 days to process. 30 days. Ma'am, I need rent in a week and a half. I needed rent in a week and a half, and they were going to give me my money back for literally almost a month. And that's when I started to freak out because I was like, there's no way I did everything right and on my end. And now I'm not going to have rent for the incoming month. And little background on me. I am an oldest sibling of 4. I am the first to move out on my own. I provide all of the money that I use to live. I don't get allowance from my parents, or I don't ask my parents for anything like that because they also have 3 other children. They live in LA, very expensive. We're very middle class family. Like it's not it's not something I'm afforded the luxury to do, but which is okay because God has been blessing me with my own money to live, and the job that I have is really cool and he allows me to do all these things, right? So I am not the type to ask anybody for anything, especially when it comes to money. I can't. It physically sickens me to ask anybody for money. And that is what God presented me in this issue. And it was hard. So I was praying to God and I was like, why would you let this happen? Like I did everything I was supposed to do. Can you provide? Like I need you to send this money faster, yada, yada, yada. Like I need you to do it. And I heard God telling me, ask your parents. And I vividly remember being like, no, I'm not asking them for anything. Like I'm not asking nobody for nothing. Like no. And it was in that moment that he made me realize that I had so much pride in myself and in my finances. I had so much pride in the fact that I provided my own way of living and that I was independent. And a lot of us Black girls that I realized, because a lot of my friends that I live with, they also connected to the same thing of like, we are so superwoman. We love a cape. We love to do things on our own. We all tend to be very hyper independent because of the world that we live in. And so like Black girl rock is a thing, and we don't ask anybody for help and we don't ask men for help. And that's something that I didn't think I was like necessarily a part of, but it's bad. I am. It's terrible. And so it physically brought me to tears. Like I didn't ask my parents at all. I wasn't going to. I was just going to ask for an extension on the rent. Like I was willing to genuinely just dig myself into a deeper hole over asking anybody for anything. And it physically brought me to tears to need anybody else. And I didn't know I had this pride. I didn't know this was something I was dealing with because I've always had it covered. And when God allowed me to not have it covered anymore, because I am human and I don't control anything that comes in my pockets or out of my pockets, it forced me to see that I carry so much pride in my independence, pride that needed to be broken down. And so God had my mom text me randomly one day, and she was like, oh, how are you? Like, what's up? And I was like, oh, nothing really, or whatever. I was like, just stressed. That's why I haven't been reaching out. I'm just stressed about life. And she was like, well, what's up? What can we help with? And I was like, and I just broke down. I was like, I don't have rent for the month because Adobe did me dirty, and it's okay, but and I was like, it's okay because I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Like, I'm gonna figure it out. And my mom was like, how much is your rent? And I told her, and she was like, okay, I'll send it. And I was like, no, you don't. I have like 200 sitting in my thing right now. Like, you don't have to send the whole entire thing. She's like, yeah, but you need groceries now. I was like, yeah, I do need groceries. I really do need groceries. It's just like, girl, I'll send the rent whenever you can pay me back. Just pay me back. Use that 200 for groceries, and so you can eat and stuff like that, and textbooks and stuff. And y'all, the breakdown I had, and it wasn't even out of joy. Like, I genuinely was walking into my home and I broke down because I was just so uncomfortable with it. When she sent the money, I could not stop crying because I'm like, ew, no, this is not supposed to be my story type thing. But then um also, God's like, here you are sitting here mad about the fact that you asked me, you said, Lord, provide it, and I did through your mom, but you don't like the avenue it came through, and therefore you don't feel like you were just blessed. And I was like, ooh, 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 ooh. He outed me. He clocked me good. He said, you only consider it a blessing when it comes through the avenue that you're okay with, and not the avenue that I deem right. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're so right. You're so right. Yeah, that's so true. And this is still something he's dealing with me with, but that was the last like really big like thing opposition he brought me through, and that was towards the end of last year. And literally within that month, within November, my rent was paid on time. Literally, my mom helped me on the 1st. My rent was paid, and then like 10 days later, I got paid one of the biggest checks of my life, and I was able to pay my mom back, pay the next month's rent, fill up my savings, all these other things. Like, it's going to work out because God will never let you fall. But there are things that he brings you through to allow you to see your heart for truly what it is, because he knows your heart better than you know yourself. And this whole time I've been living, on my own, especially in college, I never knew I had such pride about finances and about being hyper independent. And he had to break that and soften my heart and break that within me by allowing me to not have it, to depend on my own parents for once, to sit there and have humility and say, I don't have it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have it all set up. I'm not up right now. I'm very much down. And to have the humility to admit that to your parents, or for me, it's my parents. For you, it might be other people, whatever it may be. But for me, I'm very older sister coded, where like, I don't want you guys to have to do anything for me, spend anything on me. Like, you guys did enough. I got it from here. And that's not necessarily the case. I'll always be their kid, and I'll always be their oldest, and I'll always be their daughter. And luckily, I even have parents that are so open to help when it's needed and when they can, as opposed to people who don't even have parents to turn to, you know? So that was something he really had to break into me. And it's something I'm still working on to this day. Like, since then, it's very hard for me to ask for anything, and I will still try every other route before asking for anything. But it's something that he'll just have to continue to help me work on. And I think it really plays into this, what we're talking about today, because my learning points were my faith was in my finances, and he had to break that down, because my faith is supposed to be in God. My idol shouldn't be the fact that I am financially stable. It shouldn't be. It's something to pray for and wish for, absolutely. But you shouldn't make an idol out of your money, or out of anything that you depend on in that case. And I was. My pride was in my own self as well. I had made an idol out of myself and out of being independent and being superwoman. When indeed I am no super or woman. I'm a child of God, and I need to depend on him fully with everything that I do. And so that was something else that he had to show me. And the fact that it physically broke me to ask for help, like, he had to teach me how to put that superwoman cape down. Like, truly, it physically broke me, like, moved me to tears to have to ask anybody for help. Anyone. You know how crazy that is, y'all? I still think I would be moved to tears today, but it's something that now I'm aware of. And now I can try to fight proactively and pray for and understand, because when I say I genuinely didn't have any type of uh inclination at all, like I had no idea that this was something that I was like. And when I talked to my friends about it, they were like, oh well, yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, oh, so nobody wanted to tell me? And they're like, well, because we're all the same too. So it is very, we're learning along the way. And I just wanted to share my testimony to let you guys know that it's all for a reason, it's all for a purpose. And this was just a momentary affliction to help for a more permanent weight of glory that I will experience in the future, and that I will get to experience with all of you and with God for eternity. So I hope this helped. It's a very long episode, but I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something from it. Definitely DM me if you did. Comment down below if you did. I do respond to the comments. I just found out that you can put comments on Spotify, and I just found out how I can reply to those. So sorry for everyone who's been commenting on Spotify. I had no idea. But yeah, I know that I love you. The Lord loves you even more. And I'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye.